Mm-hmm. I guess that's
And
something
so,
similar to what Booker T and Charmel are doing currently in TNA.
yeah, well, I remember I kept watching because my background's in theater and things of that nature. It was killing me not to be out there on TV. And finally, I just said, Eric, please just let me work for free. I can show you what I can do.
Mm-hmm.
So he did. He said, okay, fine. And then after about 6 months, he offered me a contract.
Then the rest is history.
I know. It's bizarre.
During Mongo's days with the Horsemen, you were often depicted on screen bickering with fellow Horseman associate Nancy the Woman Benoit. How did the two of you get along in real life? And
No, actually, we got along. It was really quite fun because, she was from the old school of wrestling, and here it was a perfect. It was just perfect us to heat with each other because I'm coming from the NFL world and she's from the old school wrestling style, and it just worked really well.
How did Chris treat Nancy backstage back then?
Oh, it was great. I mean, everybody got on great, and I remember when I was in the Four Horsemen. I mean, it was great. I remember all my lines. I would write my lines I would say on TV, and Steve McMichael would always pause for me to jump in and say my whole Debra spiel as Queen Debra.
Right. What were you thinking when you heard of what happened with the whole Chris Benoit situation?
Well, I cried a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and it was very, it was just unreal to me. I was like, oh my, it was very devastating to me. Just because, like now I'm really more of a spokesperson for domestic abuse. And when that happened, I just felt really, really guilty that maybe if I would have said something and spoken out what happened to me, that it could have maybe prevented something like this. And it was, oh gosh, it really bothers me to this day.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I've become such an advocate, and I've worked with Safe House out of Denver, Colorado for about a year, speaking to schools about domestic abuse.
Mm-hmm. And you've had your own run-ins with the rattlesnake, which we'll get into a little bit later on. Jeff Jarrett, he debuted in WCW in '96 and began actively trying to become a member of the Four Horsemen, which led to a disagreement between yourself and Mongo. Is this the first time you met Jarrett, or did anything happen with Jarrett that led to your divorce from Mongo? What has your relationship been with Jarrett throughout the years?
No, actually, Bob, I will say I remember that one storyline actually was the one that gave Goldberg. Remember when Goldberg first walked out? It was that storyline with Steve McMichael in the Super Bowl ring?
Yeah. I remember.
A lot of people have forgotten about that, but anyway, getting back to what you asked me. Jeff and I knew him backstage, but what happened with Steve McMichael and I, unfortunately, was on a personal note.
Okay.
I didn't realize when Steve had retired from football how traumatic that was for him. And at that time, I was dealing with the loss of my two parents had just died. They had been sick for 3 years, and then my brother died. So unfortunately, all this happened to us at the same time, with us both being into wrestling. And I think if we would have had therapy, we would have made it through our personal life, our marriage. It just disintegrated there.
All right. Before you left WCW, you worked a little bit with Eddie Guerrero.
Yes.
What kind of person was Eddie in '96? What do you think when you heard of his death?
It's just, it made me cry again. I mean, Eddie, again, was the nicest guy. I got along so well with him. I mean, I cannot say a bad word about Eddie. It's starting to even think that they're gone now, like when I think about it, because I haven't seen them in a while.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just sort of like, oh, well, they're just still working, and, I've been busy. You sort of think like that.
Okay.
Well, and my friend Tess just...
Yeah, I was going to bring up Tess right now, but what are your thoughts on that? Everyone I spoke with Harvey Whippleman, Brutal Lauer. Everyone I spoke to speak really nice, kind words about Tess. You mirror these comments?
Well, yeah, it was interesting. Before I even started dating Steve Austin at work, for over a year, I traveled with Val Venus and Tess. So for a whole year, I was with these guys every day.
Mm-hmm.
Every day, house shows, the TV tapings, because we both are very similar. We worked out a lot, and we didn't party. We just, we split the rental car, and I have all these fond memories of Tess and how much me and Belle Venus and oh gosh, we would laugh so much, and all the jokes we'd play on each other.
So
it's hard to even think he's gone.
Right.
Too. I mean.
Right. When you think of all these guys, Eddie Guerrero, even Owen Hart, even thinking about it, and you think that they're still around. I can go all the way back to the British Bulldog. I can't believe that.
Right.
But it's just something that happens, I suppose.
Well, Owen it's more like something I really realized because I was there. Mm-hmm. But the other guys, it's more like they're still working because, to me, they're still working. It's because I didn't go to their funerals, and, so I didn't see them. I don't have that closure.
Mm-hmm. Now, you traveled with Owen Hart as well as Jeff Jarrett with that partnership.
When I was managing Jeff Jarrett and Owen Hart,
mm-hmm.
We traveled a lot together because we did all our endorsements together, autographs and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I was with these guys all the time.
How was the backstage feeling in the Kemper Arena after that, that?
Oh, I can still remember, plain as day, I can still remember seeing Owen walking by me, and he was going to go up in the top
mm-hmm.
in Kansas City, and he had this jumpsuit thing on, like over his outfit,
mm-hmm.
and he had a hat on, so he looked like one of the crew.
Mm.
And I still remember talking to him, and that was the last time I saw him alive. And then, and then I remember backstage, and I was getting ready to work with Nicole,
mm-hmm.
Nicole Bass.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden people were going, oh, my gosh, Owen just fell 90 feet. And Jeff and I were like, what?
Yeah.
And then, just the whole thought of falling that far did not sound good. And all of a sudden then they had to click straight to us for a live shoot. And they're like, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. And it's like, and then, we're doing our promo, and then I could just see Owen to the left of me, about 10 feet from me on the stretcher. And that's when I broke my character and started crying. That was and I remember Jeff went to the hospital, and then Jeff had to come in and get Owen's stuff out of the locker room.
Wow. You won the WWE Women's Championship in a controversial fashion. You challenged then champion Sable in an evening gown match where the rules state that the woman who strips her opponent's dress off is the winner. Sable stripped you, but then Commissioner Shawn Michaels announced that he thought the winner of the match should be the woman who was stripped, and awarded you the title. What was it like to hold the women's championship? What was it like working with Sable, for that matter?
Sable and I, we always got along really well, and I do remember my evening gown. The people backstage, they adjusted it just right so when it would rip, would rip the right spot.
Right.
But I do remember telling Sable, whatever you do not yank too hard on my top part. And I remember she kept yanking pretty hard, and I was like, okay, I'm going to have to really hurt her here in just a minute. That was like, okay, nope, Because that's one thing I can always say. I'll always kept my top on completely.
What do you think
might be in the bra, but it was always on.
What do you think of the previous generations of women wrestlers? What do you think they were thinking when they saw this new women's wrestling during the Attitude Era?
I think it was an adjustment, because I do remember back in the day when I was in the dressing room with Sensational Sherry, and then they brought in the Nitro Girls, and that was sort of like when I remember at WCW how it was sort of changing then. And so I guess I've sort of gone through that whole era, and then when I knew I was hired with WWF, which is WWE now, I knew they really like really sexy females, and that's sort of like I just sort of knew